Joel, what's up, man? Welcome back.
Lean Larry, thanks for having me, brother.
Lean Larry. I wish I was called that growing up. It was the opposite a lot. Let's
You've
just say.
earned it. You put in the work to now be called Lean Larry.
I appreciate that, man. It's been awesome. It's been simple, what I could say. And I would say it's been simple, but not always easy. But then again, like a lot the opposite way that I was doing things before, it was, I would say, harder. So, but I know this show, what we're going to be talking about is people who are new to intermittent fasting and what to do, what not to do, some guardrails to really follow, and maybe we'll share some of the science that backs this up. But somebody is brand new to intermittent fasting. Like, so when I was brand new to intermittent fasting, my version of intermittent fasting was, well, I do a 16-8, or I do an 18-6, or whatever else it looks like. And basically, I have like this eating window, but I really didn't understand it. So, just to help the audience really understand intermittent fasting, because I think it's more like this big global general term, what is it?
Yeah, so prolonged fasting is essentially fasting for, I'd say, over 36 hours. Some people would say 24 hours, but 36 hours is when you start getting into ketosis, meaning that your body is burning stored body fat instead of just glycogen or stored carbs or the food that you've previously been eating. So if you wake up and you eat breakfast at 8 a.m., for the next 4 or 5 hours, you're unable to tap into your body fat reserves. You're only burning the food that you ate previously. And knowing that the standard American eats every 2 to 4 hours, that means once you wake up and you break breakfast, you're not actually burning any body fat until you stop eating, which for most people is when they go to bed again that night. So that's typically what that means. And I mean, my Facebook trolls, when I run my Facebook ads, I get like 100 a day. Calorie deficit, calorie deficit. That's the reason, and I'd love to ask you about this, why you've been able to keep the weight off for going on a year now, as opposed to just cutting your calories, because you can lose weight cutting your calories. The problem with that is because you're not able to tap into your body fat and you're bringing your calories down, your metabolism has no choice but to adapt down to your calorie intake, making it so much easier to regain the weight right back, which is why everyone loses weight. Everyone's lost weight dozens and dozens of times, but keeping the weight off is the real battle. So fasting is just removing food from the equation, letting your body do what it was meant to do, and that's burn the stored energy hanging from our, as we're guys, usually our gut.
I think one of the hardest things, though, for people to really understand is what is a fast and which one is most effective. I think a lot of people subscribe to a 16-8, and I did that for a while myself, and I really didn't see the results that I wanted or hoped for. And what I found is that I did overeat usually in that window. So, but then when I'd go back to my normal, like, breakfast through dinner, have, 4 to 6 meals within, I would say, a 12-hour eating window, I still was not getting the results that I wanted. And so I really would, to be honest, when I started this whole thing, and not with you, but long before you, years before you, I was really confused, and I really did not understand what it was all about. So you're basically talking about prolonged fasts only. Is that correct?
That's what works the best, yes, in my experience. Now, I also started with 16-8, and that helped me because, like you, I competed in a show. And then after my show, I started developing binge eating disorder, where I would wake up ravenously hungry and I would eat, and I'd be hungry every 2 or 3 hours until I finally went to bed. And I realized that my morning bowl of oatmeal was actually the problem in kicking this whole thing off, because I'd wake up, I'd have all this oatmeal, I'd get this huge sugar rush, and then 2 hours later, it starts to decline. And then that's when you get that pit in your stomach of like, oh, I need more. That's why, the carb cycle of you eat carbs and 2 hours later you're hungry again, you got to get out of that whole mess. So the 16-8, 18-6, I always say that's like you're doing the hardest part of the fast, because the first 24 hours is always the hardest part anyway, for the least amount of the results. And yeah, you're right. You do end up making up for those calories just later on in the day anyway.
So the whole thing with, like I think about people used to say like, I eat Chinese food and I'm hungry 2 hours later. It's because like there's usually a lot of carbs and rice that's involved with a meal like that.
Carbs,
And then
salt's another
it's,
one.
yeah, spikes the insulin levels, and then we're hungry again, and we're actually taking in more calories. Not that carbs are bad, people can still obviously eat carbs, but I think a lot of people just don't really understand the science of the insulin spike and what that does to trigger our hunger, even in a short window of time after we've eaten. So I want to switch gears over to, the prolonged fasts. And I got to be honest, man, for people who have heard you on the podcast before, they know that I was like, wow, that seems pretty darn aggressive, these prolonged fasts. So what's a prolonged fast compared to like these smaller daily eating windows?
So prolonged fasting is 48 hours, 72 hours or longer. We've had a couple legends in my program do up to 14 days, which is nothing I've ever done or would even recommend. But once you tear down that barrier and you do see what's possible and you're burning fat like a madman, I understand competitive people want to push it to the limit and see how far they can go. But personally, I'm more of a 48, throw a 48 in when I need it, or a 72 if I'm doing it with some buddies that need some encouragement and I want to push myself like I am right now. A buddy challenged me to actually, that's a lie. I set the challenge, but 72 miles of cycling within a 72-hour fast, which is just like 3 days of torture, but it's a good time when you're doing it with buddies. But yeah, anything 48, 72 hours, you get all the health benefits. A lot of studies will indicate that you have diminishing returns after 72 hours. So autophagy, the hormonal benefits, that starts to taper off after 72 hours. So you're getting the most bang for your buck with the 3-day fast.
Very cool, man. What about this myth of, if you're not eating your like if you're fasting, your hormones will get out of whack, your testosterone will plummet, all these things. Is that true?
It's a complete opposite. Like a lot of stuff we're told. Yeah, we weren't bred to eat constantly, especially, I mean, you think about the food pyramid, it is backwards, where it's like eat mostly simple carbs and eat 6 times a day, and limit the red meat and the protein and the good stuff. No, it's after hundreds of thousands of years of eating a certain way, whole natural foods, high protein, leafy greens, when you could find them, when you could forage or kill them, it makes no sense to just constantly be eating salty, carby potato chips 24/7. You feel like crap. And the hormones reflect that because, again, we're just not meant to be doing that.
So you want to hear something crazy?
Yeah.
So as we are recording this, I know that this is going out in April, but we're recording this in March. On February 20th, I just had my blood work done. Guess, and I've been doing this regimen. So I do an OMAD. I would say a 2MAD now. I eat, pretty much twice. I eat in a pretty condensed eating window of about 4 hours. And I usually do about a 36 to a 48 every week. I'm sitting at about 167 pounds, about 9% body fat. And I've maintained that for over a year now. And I just had my blood work done. And I literally every time I'm one of those science geeks. My background is health and fitness. So like, like our sponsors with like First Form and, doing this program, like I really dial into the science. I don't buy products because of how good they look on a package. And I don't do a program unless I know the science behind it. So my testosterone, just guess what my testosterone was. Just take a guess.
Dude, well, your beard's popping what it was before or right now?
Right now.
Right now, I mean, let's see, 850.
It is not 850. And I'll give you another guess. It's higher. And I will tell you, I do not do hormone replacement therapy. Zero. I do not do TRT. Never have. Never will. I can't say I never will. Like if I get to be in my 50s and hormones are out of whack, maybe I will. Never have needed to. Never done anabolic steroids my entire life. Obviously, being 167 pounds, like of course not. But I do take supplements. So I take creatine. I take some boron. I take berberine. I take microfactor. I take greens. And here's the crazy thing: about 90% of my diet when I'm not fasting is a plant-based diet. And I've been that way since 2019. So 4 years. And so I'll give you another guess of what you think my testosterone is.
950.
It's 989. 989. And by the way, quote unquote normal, right? Or is and I wouldn't even say this is normal, is 250 to 1,000, right? So mine is definitely on the high side. And 250, I mean, it depends on, you as a man and your makeup and all that stuff. Like when you start to feel the effects of low T, right? Like low energy, mental brain fog, sleep issues, obviously libido, that kind of thing. But yeah, man, plant-based diet, intermittent fasting, the program that you put me on, and my hormones are freaking. My DHEA is awesome. My estradiol is awesome. All my vitamins and minerals, my B12, even my free testosterone is fantastic. So everything is on point, right? And I went into this blood work. I'm like, okay, I've been doing this a year. Let's see.
Let me ask you a question, Larry. This is the $1,000,000 question, because the thing that we really bonded with at the beginning was we'd have no problem getting ripped and shredded, losing the fat, and then that rebound would happen. So straight from the horse's mouth, a year later, yeah, why have you been able to stay so lean? Like what's going on?
So I'll tell you, this is where I really tested it the most. So and I know that I got injured back in December. So I took, and this was the very first part of December, I took my son Mason on a rite of passage. We went to Bend, Oregon. We hiked up a mountain together and all that stuff. And I snowshoed up this mountain. There was about 3 feet of snow on this mountain, and I've never snowshoed in my entire life. And it was hilarious. It was me, 8 other men and their sons. So there's like 14 of us, and we're snowshoeing up this mountain, which I had never done. And that was a fascinating experience. Well, on the way down, I kind of slipped and I did the splits, and I didn't really feel anything when I did that. And I got back up, walked down the mountain. It was hours later, all of a sudden I felt this excruciating like cramp in my right leg. And I was like, it literally felt like muscle was being torn off the bone. And I was like, oh my God, like never felt pain like that. And it kept happening over and over. Well, it turns out what I did is I tore my sartorius muscle, which is the long muscle that attaches at the lateral side of the hip and goes to the interior side of the knee. And I tore that. Had no idea. I tore that on the fall. So I couldn't do anything for about 6 weeks. I actually had to go to an orthopedic surgeon because they thought like, oh my gosh, you might have torn ligaments. And I had to get an MRI. I had to go through physical therapy. And it was right around Christmas. And I kind of hit this depression because I couldn't work out. And I started eating bad. I still stayed within my eating windows and I still would throw in a fast, but I went from like hovering about 8% body fat up to about 13 or so, but I gained weight and I was like, God, this sucks. But I got really stupid with my refeeds. Like I was just like, I was depressed and I was like, whatever, it's Christmas. I'll have all these cookies. And it was dumb. And I remember reaching out to you and Tim and I was like, past 6 weeks have been bad. I think I've pretty much shit canned my health and all the results I've worked so hard for. Not exactly sure what to do. And Tim's response and your response is, get back on the wagon, focus on your refeeds, throw back in your weekly 48-hour fast, and train as you did before as soon as you can, which I did. And it took about 6 weeks. And 6 weeks, I'm right back to where I was. I was like, and I remember stepping on the scale and thinking like, I'm going to be 180 pounds, right? I've probably gained 15 pounds. And I was right back to where I was in 6 weeks. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I cannot believe how fast my body responded. So that was kind of crazy, to be honest. I wasn't expecting
one of the biggest misconceptions, and something I hate to say the haters, but the people that will question your methods will say is, what are you just going to eat like that forever, doing 48s and 72s back to back? And really the answer is no, because you hit a certain leanness, and unlike most diets where you're either doing it or you're not, like counting calories, it's very binary. You're either counting calories or you're not. You're either eating keto or you're not. You're either eating paleo or you're not. Fasting is more of a switch where everyone fasts. If you go to bed for 8 hours, you're fasting for 8 hours. That would be, you're at like a 2 out of 10. So someone comes into the 90-day program, if they want to lose 50 pounds in 90 days, we might ramp them up to an 8 or a 9 and have them fasting aggressively. But once they get to their goal, I mean, we can bring them down to a 2 or a 3. So they're doing OMAD, like you said, or 16-8, or doing a 48 once a week. There's a lot of options depending on what works best for the individual. But no, you're not just eating 4 or 5 times a week for the rest of your life. That's a tool that you have in your belt forever. When those circumstances do pop up, an injury happens, you lose motivation, you gain some weight back. All right, tap right back into it. But maintenance is a breeze compared to the actual fat loss.
I agree. And I definitely, so I took my son hunting this past weekend. We were with a group of people, and everybody was eating breakfast and lunch. And to be honest, like my lifestyle and doing this, like I eat this small meal, right? About an hour and a half before dinner, and then I eat dinner, and that's what I eat. And for me, it works out, and I do that throughout the week. And for me, it works perfect, because now the way my body has adapted, I'm not hungry for breakfast. I don't even like breakfast. I really never have. And then lunch, it was always kind of more of a pain in the ass, because I always had to stop what I was doing, go grab lunch, and then I would always hit like this afternoon brain fog every day. And then, so for me, I'm not going to cut out dinner, because that's dinner with my family. But dinner is great because it works for me. It works for my productivity. And the only thing that I do is I'll work in either a 36 or a 48 once a week. And then on the weekend, like I'll pick one day where I probably will eat, like on a Saturday, if we go get breakfast as a family or lunch as a family, I'm not going to skip out on that. Like I'll eat my 3 meals, right? But then I'll normally align that with a fast that I know that's coming up, right? But for me, and I got a lot of people were asking me questions. They're like, does that really work? I was like, man, it works great for me. I was like, in fact, and they're like, what about like your workouts? I was like, my workouts are actually better. You would think, like, because glycogen levels are lower, but like my workouts are actually better. I don't feel weighed down. I feel like I can move my body better. I feel like I can do cardio better. I can do weights better. Everything is better. And they're like, well, what about your post-workout recovery shake? And I'm like, if I'm eating dinner that day, that's post-workout recovery. I was like, even when I used to do that, because like I would do a smoothie with like, like a ton of like fruit in it or something like that. And I would always 30 minutes later, I would crash, I wouldn't feel right. I'm not saying what I do is perfect for everybody, but for me, what I've done is I've found that sweet spot that does work for me and my lifestyle and my work lifestyle, and my blood work shows it. So, which is good.
Protein is obviously important. No one's saying it's not. I will say the 1 gram per pound of lean body weight, or 1.5. I even hear 2 grams sometimes, depending on how much protein whoever's saying is trying to sell you. Protein is less important than your hormones. And that can be proven. Whereas if you're doing the same workouts, sticking to the same diet, and you do get on testosterone or some sort of steroid and change nothing else but your hormones, you're going to blow up like a madman. That's your hormones. So although you might be getting less protein than you're used to if you're eating 6 times a day, eating nothing but chicken and broccoli and egg whites, etc., the 2000% spike in HGH and the testosterone benefits outweigh the protein that you're not getting. So you're not going to lose muscle. Again, I've been doing this going on 5 years now. I've trained countless guys. It's always the number one concern, which it was mine too. But a scoop of protein powder versus your God-given HGH that spikes to insane levels, you're going to build muscle, or worst case, keep the muscle you have.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree, man. Let's get back to actually just some things that I want to talk to the people listening to the show that they're like 48 hours without food. Why would I do that to myself? Because I got to be honest, man, when you told me about that, I was like, Why would I do that to myself? That sounds freaking awful. But my motivation at the time when I started working with you was a little different because I had a show to prep for that my son had asked me to do with him, and I was not going to let him down. And I was not, so I felt like what I was doing was I was like, I just need to go ahead and do this. But for the people listening and they're like, man, 48 hours, that's a lot. Like why would I do that to myself? What are some of the health benefits associated?
Well, I'll get into the health benefits, but just from a macro point of view, I used to think, what can I add to what I'm doing now to level up? What books can I read? What more can I do? And it wasn't until I started having kids and really having to optimize my time and energy, where I started asking the right question, which is, what can I remove to move the needle forward? And it goes back to the military concepts of you have to break something down before you can build it back up. So fasting, I mean, that's why meditation's so great. You remove all the distractions, you just sit there with yourself, instead of just constant distraction. Or if you're going to get a tan, you're better off going twice a week, mid levels, if you're super pale, and getting that coat and building your way up, as opposed to just frying yourself and getting sunburn and being counter productive. So what's nice about fasting is you remove everything. It's like the ultimate elimination diet. All of a sudden, you're fasting, and a plain chicken breast and broccoli sounds amazing. Whereas if that's on your meal plan, you're like, oh, this is all I can do. I want pizza. You're like, man, I'd kill for a chicken breast and broccoli right now. So even if you end up cheating on your fast, it's like, okay, you ate once a day and it was chicken breast and broccoli and you were super pumped about it. So that's one thing. But really, the fasting is just, you have to understand that just because we're acting a certain way right now in the year 2023, April, when this comes out, doesn't mean that's how we were designed to act. Just like I wasn't designed to walk around with my head in my phone, scrolling my phone like this. Even though you walk around and you see everyone doing it, it doesn't mean it's the right thing. So if you don't have any body fat to lose, then yeah, eat as much as you want. But if you're 40 or 50 pounds overweight and you feel like crap, especially after you eat, and you're eating a bunch of stuff that's not productive for you, then remove it, get it out of the equation, get out of that carb loop where you eat carbs and you're starving, so you eat more carbs, and that's how you gain the weight. Remove all of that stuff, and your body actually starts to crave what fuels it, which is, depending on your
Whole
your
foods,
background,
right?
yeah, whole foods. Whether if you can grow it or kill it, you're probably safe there. But it's just, I mean, people don't bat an eye if their doctor says, hey, you have surgery tomorrow, I need you to do a 24-hour fast. You got it. But if someone says, hey, you can change your life, have more energy for your kids and your family, look better, be more healthy, lose inflammation, get off the medications, you just need to work these 24-hour, 48-hour fasts in, it's like, oh, how dare you?
But yeah, it's that's what I'm saying. It's simple, not necessarily easy, but at the same time, you know, it is highly effective. Why? Let's talk about some of the ways, some of the things you can do while you're fasting. So I know there's a lot of science around. You know, a lot of people are like, well, like you and I were talking about before we hit record. Well, pickles have no calories, so I could probably eat that, right? Anything with 0 calories, but that's not the case, right? So during a
People do eat
fast,
pickle. I will say, if you get on Reddit, you can go down some rabbit holes and see people eating a ton of pickles and losing a lot of weight. I think it's pretty, I mean, that kind of defeats the purpose, because you're not addressing the underlying issue where you constantly need to be eating. Like, the whole issue, whether you clean up your diet and get a meal plan, or you eat nothing but pickles, or you eat nothing but total crap all the time, the underlying issue is, if I'm not doing anything, I need to be consuming. That's called gluttony. It's one of the 7 deadly sins. So being aware of that and improving your self-discipline to say, oh, I'm mindful right now, I could eat something, but am I hungry? No, not really. I'm just going to get back to what I was doing. And mastering that inner voice, that's the underlying issue. So could someone eat a bunch of pickles? Yes. But 6 months from now, I can bet you dollars to donuts they're going to be in the same exact position they were 6 months previous because they're tired of pickles and they still have the underlying issue at hand. Does that make sense?
Makes total sense.
It goes back to the stripping everything away. You need to be, man, I forgot who said it. If I knew we were going to go down this path, I would have figured it out. But I saw a quote a couple weeks ago. It was like, all men's problems stem from the fact that you can't sit by yourself alone in a room in quiet by yourself. Like, you always need to be distracted, doing something, seeking comfort. Just like, no, I don't need to right now. I'm good where I'm at. I'm happy. I'm warm. I don't have any injuries plaguing me right now. I can just be content with the way things are right now, as opposed to, oh, I'm bored. Can I go eat some pickles? You know?
You know what's fascinating about that is when I was doing, and I still do it to this day, I've gotten out of the habit now because I've been doing this now for so long, is that I really kind of got to know myself and
Yes.
my triggers for food, right? So like for instance, like even today, right? I haven't eaten breakfast, I haven't eaten lunch, eating here in, a few hours for dinner. And I've noticed, a couple of different things. Like I'm like, am I hungry? Like I'll ask myself that. And the answer to that is no. Should I go get something to eat? Yeah, maybe. Right. And then that's where it's like, well, why? And you kind of like take the pause of like, well, why? And it's like,
And a lot of times you're avoiding something. So
yeah,
I get
avoid,
that
yeah.
same thing when it's like, oh, I got one thing left to do today. It's going to take like 2 hours. I'm going to be uncomfortable. I really don't want to do it. Or I could go get some pepper jacks and then kind of blow it off till later. Yeah, it's like an avoidance tactic.
It is. Or it's like I'm seeking some sort of like avoidance, right? Or I'm seeking actually comfort,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, or I'm bored, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm bored. Maybe I should eat, or it's like, yeah, it's like I'm avoiding something. I don't want to do that thing. So maybe I'll go get a snack. Right.
It's
But
funny.
it's,
I'm wearing this shirt right now that says "No free dopamine,"
I saw
and
that, by the way.
it's a Jocko shirt, and it's such a great reminder. I feel like I'm wearing it. I'm turning into one of those guys that wears the same shirt all the time. But it's such a great reminder of like, am I chasing free dopamine right now? And if I am, don't. Like, you're
Don't.
wearing a shirt that says not to. Earn your dopamine, and it's so much more rewarding.
I agree, man. But yeah, let's talk about some things as far as like black coffee, I know is okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Green tea, right, without flavoring is okay. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people I know have asked you, are branch chain amino acids okay? Diet soda okay? Powerade, Gatorade, Zero, all that stuff. Like, are all those things okay? And what are your answers to things like that?
Anything with artificial sweeteners specifically are going to be not off limits, but you're going to want to be careful because they're usually 0 calories. And then you drink it, or like, say you're chewing gum and you get that sweetness. And for thousands or hundreds of thousands, whatever you believe, years, if you take a bite of an apple, you get that sweetness in your mouth, your belly gets the calories a few seconds later. But now in 2023, you have a drink of a Diet Pepsi, you get that sweetness, but it's 0 calories, and your body doesn't get the calories it's expecting. So as a like response mechanism, it will actually trigger way more hunger. So now it just makes fasting, like, instead of seamless and simple and you don't have to give it a second thought, now you're battling a ravenous hunger, which wakes the beast up.
Yeah.
BCAAs, I've always said stay away from. I have been taking a pre-workout lately that has BCAAs in it, like pixie dusting, nothing like insane. I wouldn't sip it all day, because if it does spike your insulin, now you're keeping your insulin spiked all day. If it's just in your pre-workout or something like that, it's minuscule. It's like here and it's gone if you drink your pre-workout as quickly as I do. So splitting hairs, but yeah, anything with artificial sweeteners, try to limit. But yeah, like a Gatorade Zero, Powerade Zero, electrolytes, those things can be a nice little crutch when you need them.
And you talk about electrolytes. I know that's really important during a fast. So when I first started doing this, like I bought, electrolytes in capsule form. And especially like if I was feeling hunger pangs, I would take my electrolytes. And it would sort of diminish the hunger pangs a little bit.
Oh yeah, big time. And it just breaks up the monotony of water and black coffee too, because a lot of times you're just like, man, I'm not hungry, but I'm just so tired of the taste of water and black coffee. I need something else in my life.
So I found something else too that has really helped with like a soda, like, or a diet soda. I don't really have the stomach for, and when I say the stomach, like, I don't really crave diet soda anymore. I used to here and there, but I found that Zevia, because I guess it's stevia extract, right? That they use in those Zevias, which is a natural sweetener, 0 calories. It doesn't break a fast. And those, I don't know what they do to those sodas, but they're so crazy carbonated. I mean, they're flavored water, but they're it's almost like they're highly carbonated. And because of the carbonation, it makes it kind of bubbly, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess maybe those bubbles kind of fill up my stomach a little bit, and it sort of takes the hunger away. And the sweetness of the soda really kind of curbs my appetite, and it doesn't wake the beast up. It actually puts him back to sleep, I think.
Yeah, I've been drinking these Topo Chicos.
Yeah, those are great. I love
Those
those
are
things.
awesome. And from your queue, actually, I've put down the booze for it's been over a month now, and those have
Nice.
been a nice little replacement. You just crack it open at the end of the day and sip on a Topo Chico without the hangover. It's like you're living your best life.
El Topo Chico. I love it,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Well, so if people want to connect with you, I mean, like, listen, uh, summer is 2 months away, and I think a lot of people are feeling the effect of, if you really look at the statistics, almost 40% of people have given up their New Year's resolutions, in, I think, month one. By the end of January, about 38% is they're out. So all these, like, health, goals that people had, or they want to lose weight by summertime, or lose weight by Memorial Day, because this is when the pools open up and all that stuff. Uh, this might be a good time for people to start something, right? Or just reignite that goal that maybe they drifted off of. But I want to make sure people can find you and what you're doing. So what's the best place to find you?
Yeah, www. And I think you do have to type in the
www.
www.
Are you
That's why I
serious?
say it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's something like weird with my DNS domain or whatever. www.joelstaleyfitness.com. I put a free dad edge guide together for everybody. Or you can connect me. Larry, you're like one of the 12 guys I follow on Instagram these days. So pretty easy to find each other on there. And yeah, just to same thing. I really want to change people's mindsets of, yeah, you want to lose fat and be in great shape by the time summer starts. You should. But with the right vehicle, you can continue to lose weight as summer goes without missing out on the poolside barbecues or the cookouts or the 4th of July feasts with your friends and family. Like, you can still work all of these things in without blowing right back up. You can get leaner. And Larry, you proved that last summer. We prove it every year. So just instead of losing weight just to gain it back and stay in the same 20-year cycle, a lot of these guys I'm working with have been in, lose it one last time and keep it off. That's really the mission here.
That's awesome, man. Is it? I didn't even ask this, but is there a special link for see, look, my wife just brought me. She
Yeah.
brought me a grape Zevia. Like, I don't know if she heard me talking about it or what. But is there an additional link for the dad edge, or is this just something that, like,
I
how do they get
posted it the link at the top of Joel Staley Fitness, www.joelstaleyfitness.com, is the Dad Edge link. I don't drive any other traffic there. I've put it right there, big yellow button. You can't possibly miss it. And that's specifically for your audience.
I'm at the top of your homepage. Are you serious?
Yeah, brother. Yeah.
Oh my God. I had no idea. I had no
All right.
idea. Sweet. I'm actually looking at it now. Hang on.
Yeah. So it's just
There
a
it
big button
is.
that says like start here. And then if you click it, it'll say joelstaleyfitness.com/dad edge, I believe.
Oh my God, man. For dads only. Look at that. That is so cool. I had no idea. Um, I guess you were waiting to surprise me with that when we before we because you didn't tell me that before we hit record, but that's really cool.
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
guys, not to worry. We'll have all the links in the show notes for you. That's really cool, man, going to your homepage and seeing that. You guys, all you have to do is head on over to thedadedge.com/Friday99 for this show. Again, thedadedge.com/Friday99 for this show. And just so you guys have it as well, we'll go ahead and put a link straight to that free guide for you guys in the show notes, so you won't have to search for it, or you can just go to Joel's website as well. So Joel, thank you so much for coming on, man. This was super cool. I always learn something, even though I've been doing this now for quite some time. This meaning, intermittent fasting. But I always learn something new. I always pick up a new nugget when we talk, man. Thank you.
Larry, you've helped me with my family. You've helped me with my business. You've helped me more than probably any single man besides, my dad and stuff like that in my adult life. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate you and the work you're doing as well.
Dude, thank you, man. I'm honored, and I'm appreciative of that. Honor you, man. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom. All right, guys, that's all we got for today. Go out, live legendary. Take care.